各位听众您好，这里是 iGo News， 欢迎收听美国晚间新闻会诊，狐狸台观点。
Hello there, this is iGo News. Welcome to our U.S. Nightly News Summary from a Holy Channel perspective.
晚上好。距选举日仅剩数小时，美国人见证了唐纳德·特朗普和卡马拉·哈里斯前所未有的最后冲刺。他们旨在巩固自己的信息，动员每一位支持者，并争取味觉选民的支持。
Good evening. With just hours left before Election Day, Americans are witnessing an unprecedented final push from both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris as they aim to solidify their messages, mobilize every last supporter, and capture the undecided vote.
两方竞选团队都将这次选举描绘为一个关乎国家生死存亡的时刻，标志着愿景、政策和言辞上的鲜明对比。
Both campaigns have framed this election as an existential moment for the country, marked by sharp contrasts in vision, policy, and rhetoric.
选举的风险极高，双方都坚持认为国家的未来取决于这次选择。
The stakes are high, with both sides insisting that the future of the nation depends on this choice.
让我们仔细看看两位候选人的最后信息、首要议题，以及选民投票率和摇摆州对结果的潜在影响。
Let's take a closer look at the candidates' final messages, the issues at the forefront, and the potential impact of voter turnout and battleground states on the outcome.
唐纳德·特朗普将在今晚于宾夕法尼亚州举行重大集会，结束他的竞选活动，这是可能决定选举结果的关键州。
Donald Trump is wrapping up his campaign with a major rally tonight in Pennsylvania, a crucial state that could determine the election's outcome.
他的信息仍然集中在经济复苏、国家安全、巩固边界以及坚定的美国优先方针上。
His message has remained focused on themes of economic recovery, national security, strong borders, and an unwavering America First approach.
特朗普强调他在经济增长、能源独立和边境安全方面的成绩，坚持认为他的政策将恢复国家的稳定和繁荣。
Trump has highlighted his track record on economic growth, energy independence, and border security, insisting that his policies will restore a sense of stability and prosperity to the nation.
对他的支持者来说，特朗普代表了一位优先传统价值、强调自力更生、减少税收和减少监管以促进经济增长的领袖。
For his supporters, Trump represents a leader who prioritizes traditional values and emphasizes self-reliance, lower taxes, and reduced regulation to stimulate economic growth.
特朗普竞选活动中最强烈的主题之一是，他承诺重振因他所称的政府过度干预和政策失败而受损的经济。
One of the strongest themes in Trump's campaign has been his promise to revive an economy impacted by what he describes as reckless government overreach and policy failures.
他的集会充满了呼吁将工作带回美国、减少对外国石油的依赖并降低能源成本的声音。
His rallies are filled with calls to bring jobs back to the U.S., reduce dependence on foreign oil, and lower energy costs.
特朗普主张他在能源方面的政策，强调国内生产和去监管，将为面临高油价和能源账单增加的美国人带来解脱。
Trump asserts that his approach to energy, emphasizing domestic production and deregulation, will bring relief to Americans facing high gas prices and increasing energy bills.
他的经济愿景围绕着减税、支持小企业以及营造一个促进所有美国人增长和繁荣的氛围。
His economic vision is centered around reducing taxes, supporting small businesses, and creating a climate that fosters growth and prosperity for all Americans.
特朗普对边境安全和移民政策的关注也得到了他的支持者的共鸣。这些人认为这是影响国家安全、经济稳定和社会凝聚力的关键问题。
Trump's focus on border security and immigration policy also resonates with his supporters, who see it as a critical issue affecting national security, economic stability, and social cohesion.
在他的竞选过程中，特朗普强调了需要巩固美墨边境，以防止非法移民、毒品贩运和人口走私。
Throughout his campaign, Trump has emphasized the need to secure the U.S.-Mexico border to prevent illegal immigration, drug trafficking, and human smuggling.
他的信息吸引了那些担心未经审查的移民涌入及其对就业、资源和公共安全影响的选民。
His message appeals to voters concerned about what they perceive as an influx of unvetted immigrants and the impact this may have on jobs, resources, and public safety.
特朗普认为，没有安全的边界，美国人的安全和繁荣就会受到威胁，并将自己定位为将采取果断行动来维护国家移民系统完整性的候选人。
Trump argues that without secure borders, Americans' safety and prosperity are at risk, positioning himself as the candidate who will take decisive action to uphold the integrity of the nation's immigration system.
与此相对应，卡马拉哈里斯的最后竞选活动集中于社会公平、环境责任和医疗改革等主题。
In contrast, Kamala Harris's final campaign efforts are centered around themes of social equity, environmental responsibility, and healthcare reform.
哈里斯将她的竞选活动重点放在城市地区以及拥有大量年轻选民、女性和少数族裔的社区。
Harris is focusing her campaign stops on urban areas and communities with significant numbers of young voters, women, and people of color.
它的吸引力根植于一个更加包容的美国愿景，该愿景优先考虑可负担的医疗、气候变迁行动以及对种族和社会正义的承诺。
Her appeal is rooted in a vision for a more inclusive America that prioritizes accessible healthcare, climate change action, and a commitment to racial and social justice.
哈里斯主张，政府可以成为解决不平等问题、促进可持续增长并确保每个美国人都有成功机会的强大力量。
Harris argues that government can be a powerful force for good in addressing inequalities, promoting sustainable growth, and ensuring that every American has the opportunity to succeed.
哈里斯在医疗改革方面的立场是他竞选的支柱之一。
Harris's stance on healthcare reform is one of the pillars of her campaign.
他支持扩大可负担医疗的获取范围，强化平价医疗法案，并确保有既往病史者的保护。
She supports expanding access to affordable healthcare, strengthening the Affordable Care Act, and ensuring protections for those with pre-existing conditions.
哈里斯坚持认为医疗是一项权利，而不是特权。他相信自己的政策将解决美国医疗系统中的长期问题。
Harris asserts that healthcare is a right, not a privilege, and believes her policies will address the long-standing issues within the American healthcare system.
他将医疗改革框架视为道德义务，认为获得优质医疗不应取决于个人的社会经济地位或职业。
She frames healthcare reform as a moral imperative, arguing that access to quality healthcare should not depend on one's socioeconomic status or employment.
他的支持者认为，他的政策将有助于减少家庭的成本，保护弱势群体，并改善整体公共健康。
Her supporters believe that her policies will help reduce costs for families, protect vulnerable communities, and improve overall public health.
在气候变迁问题上，哈里斯采取了强硬立场，倡导投资绿色能源，逐步淘汰化石燃料，以及在各行业推动可持续实践。
On climate change, Harris has taken a strong position, advocating for investment in green energy, transitioning away from fossil fuels, and promoting sustainable practices across industries.
他的竞选活动强调，气候变迁不仅仅是环境问题，还是一个社会经济问题，对低收入社区和有色人种社区影响尤甚。
Her campaign emphasizes that climate change is not only an environmental issue but a socioeconomic one, disproportionately affecting low-income communities and communities of color.
哈里斯的立场吸引了那些担心地球未来的选民。他将自己的气候变迁方针描绘为创造绿色工作、保护公共健康和保护自然资源的承诺。
Harris's stance appeals to voters concerned about the future of the planet, and she frames her approach to climate change as a commitment to creating green jobs, protecting public health, and preserving natural resources.
哈里斯相信，通过正确的政策，美国可以在环保创新、减 减少碳排放和构建可持续经济方面领先世界。
Harris believes that with the right policies, the U.S. can lead the way in environmental innovation, reducing carbon emissions, and building a sustainable economy.
宾夕法尼亚州、密歇根州、威斯康星州和亚利桑那州等关键摇摆州的民调显示竞争激烈，大多数民调显示差距微乎其微。
Polling in key battleground states such as Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona shows a tightly contested race, with most polls indicating that the margins are razor thin.
两个竞选团队在这些州投入了大量资源，深知在其中任何一州的胜利都可能具有决定性意义。
Both campaigns have invested significant resources in these states, knowing that a win in any of them could be pivotal.
宾夕法尼亚州的风险尤其高，特朗普和哈里斯都在此举行了多场集会，强调了该州20张选举人票的重要性。
The stakes are especially high in Pennsylvania, where Trump and Harris have each held multiple rallies, underscoring the importance of the state's 20 electoral votes.
分析人士指出，某些人口群体的投票率，特别是年轻选民、农村选民和独立选民的投票率，可能会影响这些关键州的结果。
Analysts suggest that turnout among certain demographics, particularly young voters, rural voters, and independents, could swing the outcome in these critical states.
今年的提前投票数量达到创纪录的高点，这表明与此次选举相关的高度兴趣和风险。
Early voting numbers have reached record highs this year, a sign of the intense interest and high stakes associated with this election.
数百万美国人已经通过邮寄或亲自投票。提前投票的统计数据显示，共和党和民主党的选民均表现出强烈的投票参与。
Millions of Americans have already cast their ballots by mail or in person, with early voting statistics showing strong turnout from both Republican and Democratic voters.
在北卡罗来纳、乔治亚和内华达州等地，共和党的提前亲自投票出现了激增，特别是在农村地区。特朗普的竞选活动在此投入了大量资源。
In states like North Carolina, Georgia, and Nevada, Republicans have seen a surge in early in-person voting, particularly in rural areas, where Trump's campaign has invested heavily.
另一方面，民主党则寄希望于城市地区的高投票率，以及女性、年轻选民和少数族裔的支持。他们在提前投票中已经表现出强烈的参与度。
Democrats, on the other hand, are counting on high urban turnout and support from women, younger voters, and minorities who have shown up in large numbers for early voting.
国家安全和外交政策在这次选举中也扮演着重要角色。
National security and foreign policy are also playing a prominent role in the election.
特朗普强调了他在外交事务方面的成绩，特别是他政府努力促成和平协议，加强联盟，并让美国避免新的战争。
Trump has touted his record on foreign affairs, particularly his administration's efforts to broker peace deals, strengthen alliances, and keep the U.S. out of new wars.
他的竞选活动指出，打败 ISIS、中东美军减少以及对中国和伊朗的强硬立场，这些都是他保持美国在世界舞台上安全和受尊重的方法。
His campaign points to the defeat of ISIS, the reduction of U.S. troops in the Middle East, and a firm stance against adversaries like China and Iran as examples of his approach to keeping America safe and respected on the world stage.
特朗普认为，强大且独立的美国是维持和平和稳定的关键。他警告说，哈里斯政府将削弱国家在全球的地位。
Trump argues that a strong, independent America is essential for maintaining peace and stability, and he warns that a Harris administration would weaken the country's standing in the world.
相对而言，哈里斯采取了不同的外交政策立场，强调外交、多边合作和结盟的重要性。
Harris, on the other hand, has taken a different approach to foreign policy, emphasizing diplomacy, multilateral cooperation, and alliances.
他主张重新加入巴黎气候协定等国际协议，并与盟国合作应对包括气候变迁、人权和经济不平等等全球挑战。
She advocates for rejoining international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord and working with allies to address global challenges, including climate change, human rights, and economic inequality.
哈里斯的支持者认为，他的方针代表了美国重返作为合作型全球领导者的角色，有能力建立联盟来应对跨国界的问题。
Harris's supporters believe her approach represents a return to America's role as a collaborative global leader, capable of building alliances to address issues that cross national borders.
他的竞选活动主张，特朗普的孤立主义政策已损害了美国与盟国的关系，而恢复这些联盟对应对全球最紧迫的挑战至关重要。
Her campaign argues that Trump's isolationist policies have damaged America's relationships with its allies, and that restoring these alliances is essential for tackling the world's most pressing challenges.
在选举安全问题日益受到关注的情况下，两个竞选团队都鼓励选民踊跃投票，让自己的声音被听到。
Amid heightened concerns about election security, both campaigns have encouraged voters to turn out in record numbers and make their voices heard.
官员们已经采取措施确保投票地点的安全。司法部向历史上曾发生选民压制和异常情况的州派出了监察员。
Officials have taken steps to ensure the security of polling locations, with the Justice Department deploying monitors to states with histories of voter suppression and instances of irregularities.
国民警卫队在某些地区处于待命状态，以确保选举过程平稳安全，并应对任何潜在的干扰。
The National Guard has been put on standby in certain areas to ensure a peaceful election process and address any potential disruptions.
双方竞选团队都动员了大量志愿者，协助最后的选民动员，协助投票点的选民，并对可能影响投票率的错误信息进行反制。
Both campaigns have mobilized extensive teams of volunteers to assist with last-minute voter outreach, assist voters at polling places, and counter disinformation efforts that could impact turnout.
随着选举日临近，选民之间的紧迫感达到顶峰。
As Election Day approaches, the sense of urgency among voters has reached a peak.
对许多美国人来说，有关医疗、经济、气候政策和移民的问题是深具个人意义的，影响着他们的日常生活，并塑造他们对国家未来的愿景。
For many Americans, the issues at stake, healthcare, the economy, climate policy, and immigration, are deeply personal, impacting their daily lives and shaping their vision for the country's future.
每个竞选团队都发出了最后的拉票声音，强调此次选举的高风险，并敦促美国人参与这个对国家至关重要的时刻。
Each campaign has made a final appeal for votes, highlighting the high stakes of this election and urging Americans to participate in this pivotal moment for the nation.
全国各地的选民现在将有机会发表自己的声音，塑造美国的未来。
Voters across the country will now have the opportunity to make their voices heard and shape the future of the United States.
以上新闻资讯整理自狐狸台，由 iGo News 编辑播报。感谢您的收听，期待与您空中再会。
The above news information is compiled from a Huli channel and presented by iGo News. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to your continued company on the air.